You just gotta get old enough and gray enough, and you'll be invited as guest speaker. And nakwento na dito. What can I possibly talk about that will be useful to a young writer's life? All the so-called successes of my professional life were due to tigas ng ulo, because I never learned. Even that I never learned, I fought for. I kept forever hitting my head against closed doors. In the days of Magellan, I took up my MA. I finished all the required subjects, but couldn't for the life of me write a thesis. At that time, the passion was to analyze the works of a Western author. Filipino authors weren't even counted, and research meant gathering everything that was written about the author, sewing them all together, and writing a brilliant summary of all those thoughts that were never yours. I was terrible at that kind of research, so I did. I'm a storyteller, a fiction writer. I have 13 stories here with me now, all typed and ready. Pwede pa yung na, please. Tumanda na ako, wala pa din akong MA. Finally, there was a kind professor who took pity on me, so mine became the first creative writing thesis accepted in Ateneo. Eventually became a book, The Butcher, the Baker, the Candlestick Maker. Don't ask me why such a dumb title. But after that, picture became standard thesis fare in the Ateneo. I got lots of bukol, but the door had broken down. Next, I observed that people at that time liked going to fashion shows, but not to serious plays yet. Of course, I wanted audience. Therefore, I should do a fashion show as if I knew how. I wanted to make costumes that didn't look like anybody else's, but I didn't know how to sew. I wanted to make original clothes for them, but I didn't know how to weave. What I knew was how to collage. I had an antique shop there in Amabini, Erita, and people kept dumping old, worn-out Saya tops called baro of their dead ancestors for me to sell. They were scared the owner's ghosts would wear them and visit at night. I loved the elaborate old-style embroidery of the torn and ragged Saya tops, so what I did was cut out the small, salvageable parts. I collaged them to other parts that matched or contrasted with them. The result was interesting. I collaged 2 extra large squares which I hand-stitched into a blouse, sandwich board style, since all I knew was to do running stitches. And my friend said, "Where did you get such a fabulous and hot blouse?" I felt like I couldn't behave. I cut and cut old embroideries, collage and collage, tagpin and tagpin, late into the night. When I had 87 big pieces, it was time to make real clothes out of them. But who'd want to see a fashion show by a fiction writing oddball? I distributed the 87 collages to different well-known journalists, including Madame Bernal, to make all my material into dresses and paid for them, or at least my dismayed husband did. The collection impressed Honor Padilla, and jamming on an old Saya was shown in Abelardo Theater of the CCP in 1995. The work was laborious, but I didn't know how to get sponsors, and it only showed one night. I documented jamming on an old Saya in a book, another costly endeavor. The lumps of my head were getting to look like Sierra Madre, but the door had opened to a new day. Oh, I had also decided to go into book publishing way back in 1976. GCF Books. It sounded important. So yun. Practically the only books in the market then were imported, mostly from the US. Except for the local textbooks, they only existing Filipiniana were selling at 8 to 12 pesos, and they were gathering dust in the bottom shelves of bookstores. I thought, if cheap books weren't selling, expensive books should. It seemed so logical to me. I wanted intelligent, luxury books with lots and lots of features in case the buyer was illiterate. It would be on Filipino subjects never tackled before in respectable fashion. Food that recipes, architecture, bahay na bato and antique, furniture, street names, the jeepney, native religion, folk stories. I handpicked scholars who were good writers and the best visual artists to flesh out the concept. The books cost about 140 to 350 each, a pretty penny then. GCF books were well received, but a PUP professor lashed out during a forum. Why do you make books for the rich and not books that everyone can afford? Everybody laughed. I was horrified. I should? I thought that was the job of the government. How could you make a Rolls-Royce book and sell it for the price of a jeepney? Just because some people could not afford them. Ayaw na mahal, ayaw na mura, pero gusto ng maganda. I was just so tired, I simply bowed my head and cried. To top it all, my beautiful babies were being called coffee table books, like some expensive decorative vase or fancy ashtray. It sounded insulting. Do not touch, not for reading, please. But some did read them, then more did. Their books got a following. A number of the books got awards. Some professors even began reserving copies in a bookstore on a layaway plan. A young friend said, I never thought calling them coffee table books was derogatory. I always bragged that I owned a coffee table book. The door had crashed, and I like to think that after that, every other publisher would make beautiful and intelligent books as good as mine, well, almost, and even make a handsome profit that I couldn't. Soon after that, I wanted to produce a play, Talang-Gala. I wanted to soak in the experience of professional dramatists to my youth. I didn't know how to write a play or direct one. I loved visuals, sets and costumes, but didn't know how to make those either. The only talent I had was knowing by instinct how to choose the right person for the right job in any art project. Some of them did not know each other, or barely. Putting the strange mix together in a pot would produce a different alchemy. When I was a child, our servants were prohibited by my father to tell me stories about Aswang that divided at the waist and flew with its upper part into the night. So, of course, I got fascinated with the Aswang and all its bloody entrails dangling. About 1995, I came upon a sheaf of dusty papers in the still unorganized Filipiniana section of the Ateneo de Manila Library. They were reports by students of Ateneo de Naga assigned by their teacher, Father Frank Lynch. It was about the difficult Aswang. The descriptions range from the terrifying to the hilarious, such as the Aswang's hair was so stiff that one wiry strand could slice a queso de bola. I combed the mishmash of information which I classified and wrote intelligibly for a slim volume called Aswang Inquiry 1998 and fully credited Father Lynch. Later, I interested the young Rodivera, then a stranger to me, to write a script for an Aswang play. When we began, Roddy couldn't tell an Aswang from a seminarian. But he eventually fell in love with the creature and wrote Luna and Aswang Romance, which won him a first prize Malanga Award. In it, Roddy had switched roles. The Aswang community were the victims that guys. The villa was called Tuna after my mother's family name because she and I were always at odds. Producing it was like exorcism and redemption. For director, I wanted Anton Juan, the only one I could imagine to be devilish enough to give it fans. Luna and A Song Romance was staged at the Big AFP Theater of Campo Rinaldo in February 2000, 2 weekends. It was an unforgettable piece and won an award as well. I was its producer again and lost my pants again. If you bang your head against a true story, you always lose money. But after this door crashed open, my forever collaborator, Manny Chavez, and I earned enough credibility to get sponsored by a company like Bench to do a book on Pinoy pop culture and then produce several skits minus hunks in brief. We continue to still break through smaller doors by trying to sneak in Pinoy culture, meaning masa culture, to the Filipistas. In the NBC 10 of K4, we sent the first live Darna live on stage, reading the book we were launching. We introduced the original unexfoliated Aegis group who sang their lungs out at Makati audience, including Don Jaime Sobel de Ayala, who gave them a standing ovation. Today, there are many more closed doors to do things that I know nothing about. But when you are sure you have a good original idea and convinced that it will work, bang a determined head against the door. It will split open faster than your head will. And there will be magic behind the door that you never dreamed possible. An experiment, finally gaining respect, opening a new path for neophytes to follow and improve upon. Gusto ko ang maglabangan. Thank you for your patience. Talaga po ako mesaya. Good night, girls and guys, sleep tight. And whoever. Love you.
Bravo! Bravo!
Thank you, Ms. Hilda Cordero Fernando. Please remain on stage.
Patay!
As we proceed to the awarding of the Gawad Kanal ng Land, may we request Ms. Cecilia Palata Quirino, Director General of the Carlos Palata Memorial Awards for Literature, and Mr. Carl Anthony Palata, Vice President of the Carlos Palata Foundation, to join Ms. Cordero Fernando on stage. Gawad Kanal ng Lahi is given by the Carlos Palata Memorial Awards for Literature to honor those who have excelled prominently in their field.
You know what they didn't say? That you were
and
not.
have become role models for the Filipino citizenry. This award recognizes individuals who share with the writers a common thread of manifesting belief in the capabilities of the Filipino and expressing their pride in the heritage of the Philippines. The plaque reads, Gawad Dangal ng Langit. Buong pagpipitagang itinararangal kay kagalang-galang Ms. Hilda Cordero Fernando, tanda ng taus-pusong pasasalamat sa pagpupunla ng mga binintuang diwa sa puso at mayamang pangalayan ng mga manunulat na Pilipino. Thank you very much for presenters. And again, congratulations for Dangal ng Lahi Awardee, Ms. Hilda Cordero Fernandez.